Welcome to an introductory lesson in working with layers in Photoshop CS6. Notice we have three files on the screen. The one on the left is our start file. It's a picture of a keyboard. On the upper right, we have a finished product. It's called gauging time. And then on the lower right, we have a support file, which is this clock. So let's begin with the project. The first thing we should always do with our projects is save them with our names on them. So here we go. We're going to do save as. And please begin by putting the period you're in. I'll be in period 2 today. My name is Cuevas. And this is my you can call it keyboard or gauging time, either one I'll understand. So we'll call it the keyboard project for now. And here we go. Period, Cuevas keyboard. Pay attention to where you're saving it. I'm going to be putting mine in my Dropbox. So I'm hitting my Dropbox and I'm going to hit save. And I'm going to hit OK. Now let's look at this image. There are three things going on here. There are three layers in this image. There's the gauge layer, which I'm turning on here in the layers palette. There's the bearing layer, which is here. Now, let's talk about placement. If I were to take and move the bearing layer from the middle, right now it's between the background and the gauge, and I were to take it and drag it up above, it would now be on top. If I did the same thing with the gauge, it would be on top. So we can arrange them like that. You cannot move the background layer while it's called background. It becomes a locked layer. We'll discuss that further in the future, or you may have seen other videos where I've discussed it already. So let's begin with this lesson and what it is we need to do. Now that we know the layers are all individual and you can turn them on and off using this little icon here, and depending on what layer you're on, you can move things around. And if you set it up to have auto select, if it's not set on auto select, you're going to work one layer at a time. If I try to move this, but if I put it on auto select, I then can move each layer intuitively, which is what you should be doing. Now, first thing we want to do is take this bearing here and move it up to the corner. And once we do that, we're going to change the color. So we're going to go up to the top, say adjust, and we're going to look for hue and saturation. And you notice here, it's kind of a violet tone. So let's move it over to a violet kind of tone. Not quite yet. Let's try the other way. It's looking pretty purpley. About there. And if I want, I can increase the saturation or decrease it. Excuse me, I'm going to increase it a little bit. And I can play with the color until I find something I really like. I think that's good. I'm going to hit OK. The next thing I want to do is, you notice there's a little glow around it. So we're going to double click on the bearing layer. And we're going to take that and we're going to hit outer glow. And we're going to look at it and we're going to increase the size of it so it's a little bit wider. And if we want, we can change the color. So here's where you would change the color. If you want it to make it a little bit brighter or something like that, that's how you would adjust the color. So we've added that. The next thing we want to do is we want to go on and we want to take the image of the gauge and we want to adjust it over in the photo filters. So now I'm going to hit OK there, and I'm going to make sure I'm on this file. I'm going to go over to the gauge layer, and I want to make an adjustment. Right now it's black and white. I'm going to go over to image, adjust, and then I'm going to go over to photo filter, and I'm going to look for a filter that I want. Specifically here, I'm going to use cyan, and when I use cyan, I can upgrade this, and I'm going to go to 90%. So I'll type in 90. And that's where I want that to be. Now, while you're doing this, feel free to experiment and explore other colors and see what it would look like a variety of different ways. But for the sake of what we're doing, we're going to go cyan, 90%. We're going to hit OK. Now, anytime along the way you want to hit save, feel free to go hit the command key and the letter S and you automatically save, or go over to File and hit Save. Okay, which is a good thing to be in the habit of doing. Now we want to bring the clock over, and I gotta bet you know how to do this already, but in case you don't, here's what we're going to do. I'll click on the clock layer. I'm going to hit Select All, or Command A, and then I'm going to get the magic wand, and I'm going to subtract the outer edge. So I'm going to hit Option, a little minus key with the magic wand, leaves me with basically just the clock area. I don't really need these little legs at the bottom, so I'm going to subtract them also with the lasso tool. Hit the Option key, and let me zoom in a little bit. Hit the Option key, and I'm going to get rid of this right here. And I'm going to get rid of this right here. I don't need that. I just really want the clock face. So now I've got this in a better situation. I want to take it, pick it up, and move it over using the move tool and drop it into my position right here. I can take this, I can rotate it, but notice that it's not the same color as the clock here. We're going to have to do a blending mode. So the kind of blending mode we need to do for the clock, I think, is going to be over here. We go to the blending modes, and I think if you can explore different ones, but I think the one we're going to use here is screen, and screen eliminates all the black and lets us just see kind of the white part. I'm going to take that, I'm going to hit Command T, or you can also go up to Edit, and where it says Free Transform, you see Command T, and I'm going to take and I'm going to rotate this a little bit, kind of put it in place. If I think it's too big, I can make it a little bit smaller, like that. Double click, and you have it, you put it in place. The next thing we need to do, once we've taken and we've moved the clock over and we've changed it to screen, is to create a new layer, a gradient layer. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to click on the background layer, and we're going to make a new layer. And new layer, and it's going to be just above the background. I'm going to call this a gradient layer. And we're going to take that and we're going to put, notice this image has a green layer that goes across. So we're going to go over here and we're going to pick a color. We're going to pick a green hue, maybe something like this. And we're going to hit OK. You see the green color. Now we're going to go to the gradient. And up at the top, we're going to select not the first option, which is foreground and background, but the second option, which is foreground to transparent. We're going to take that, make sure your gradient is set to linear. I'm going to move it across the page. And now you see my gradient. If you don't like the color, if you think it's too bright, feel free to change it. I'm going to dull mine down a little bit. And I'll do that again. And it's a little bit duller. And now what I want to do is change the opacity on the gradient layer. So I'm going to move it from 100% to 50%. And now it comes through and you can see kind of the way it should appear. The last thing we need to do here is just add a type layer. So we're going to grab a type tool and we're going to type in the words gauging, gauging, time, and I'm going to highlight the type. I'm going to change the color up at the top to the color white. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to change the typeface to Apple Chancery. So we're going to go Apple Chancery. I'm going to take that, make it a little bit bigger. Let's see, maybe about a 30. I'm going to move it in place with my move tool. I'll put it there. Now I want to give it a little bit of a drop shadow, so I'm going to double click on the layer and I'm going to hit drop shadow on that. And we get a little drop shadow, but I want it to be kind of tight. So I'm going to bring it in a little bit and the distance a little bit. So something like that. I'm going to hit OK. And that would be a time to hit save. Great job. So I hit Command Save. And if you wanted to get creative, here's another option. You could do something like this, and different type, but you get an idea. Let's see. So here it's the same project. I just happen to take it and make it a little bit more interesting for myself. You can go either direction. I hope you do well.